Hi, this is Joel. Rachel and I moved to the Twin Cities about 2 years ago, and this is a little bit of the story of what brought us and what God's been doing in our lives ever since. So we came out to the Twin Cities in 2017 to start a small business with a friend of mine. It's called Urban Greens. It's an indoor hydroponic farm, which means that we grow leafy greens and herbs in a warehouse up at Columbia Heights. But before becoming a hydroponic farmer, I was working as a mechanical engineer at a company in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. It was a nuclear power plant design firm. It was a big multinational company that was doing, frankly, good work and providing good services to society. But over time, it became kind of apparent to me that basically nobody at the company was flourishing, including me. There was a lot of complaining, a lot of distrust throughout the organization. People basically didn't think the leaders had their backs, and so over time it became a bit of a struggle to work there. And through that time, God started to develop in me a longing to build my own business from the ground up and create that culture that I had been craving. In addition, I've always thought that business, and specifically small business, is a great opportunity that God gives His body to serve our communities. There are ways that we can offer value to our community as well as build really meaningful relationships with people that we honestly wouldn't have the chance to cross paths with otherwise. So again, a couple of years ago, my friend Andrew was starting to play around with hydroponics. He had a small system in his basement where he was growing some heads of lettuce and some kale, over time scaling it up, and basically got to the point where he thought maybe it could become a viable business. And given where I was at in Pittsburgh, ready to make a change, he gave me a call and asked if I'd be willing to move out here and start Urban Greens with him. So Rachel and I, after having been married for all of 4 months, packed up everything and moved to Minnesota. And so the first thing that any good entrepreneur does when starting a business is write a mission statement. And fortunately, I had been thinking for quite some time about what the mission of any business that I would start would be. And given Urban Greens in the context of food production, this is the mission statement that we came up with. So our mission at Urban Greens is to draw value out of God's creation through innovation in food production that contributes to the flourishing of our customers, team members, and owners. Our goal is to serve our community with high quality food that honors the goodness of God's creation and a customer service experience that honors the dignity of every individual. We seek to build a business that prioritizes justice and its encounters with all people related to the business, as well as its encounters with God's creation. So God has certainly been stretching me over the past couple of years. A couple specifics come to mind. One is that I've never really considered myself to be a particularly materialistic person. I live pretty minimalistically. I don't really buy new things, and Rachel will tell you that I'm just pretty cheap. And so as an engineer, I was living considerably below my means. And so I felt like I wasn't relying on stuff for my identity. But since leaving my job and pouring a bunch of money into a new business, God's been revealing to me how much I had been relying on that as a security net. I knew that even though I didn't need all that money for my day-to-day, it was always there in case something went wrong. And so now with less of a security net, God's been increasing my faith in His provision. And one of the ways that He's been teaching me over the past couple of years that He does that is He often does it through His body, the church. You do hear stories about God mysteriously providing for people through anonymous checks in the mail, stuff like that. But He's been teaching me that more often than not, He's going to provide for us through His body, the church. There was a time where I was sharing with our community group about what I perceived to be the worst case scenario for the business, which is that it saddles Rachel and I with a bunch of debt, it then fails spectacularly, and we are out living on the street. But I was telling them, well, God's been teaching me that that's probably not going to be the case because He'll provide for us through the church, which means one of you is going to take us in, right? And I look around, I'm just waiting to hear crickets. But immediately Anna Nelson says, of course we would, you could stay in the basement. And so it's just, again, an affirmation that God does provide for us, and we at Antioch, His body, is how He does that. So a second way that God has been stretching me over the course of starting this business is a growing patience and dependence on Him in the unknown. So here's a secret about entrepreneurs. We don't know what we're doing. We got visions, we got plans, but things basically never go according to plan. And when you've built your business on something as fickle as living plants, growing in a warehouse without soil, there's a lot that's outside of your control. And then there's all the problems of which direction to take the business, how to best serve your customers, how to manage the work between you and your partner. There's a lot of unknowns. Fortunately, God knows everything there is to know about his creation and about this community and what they need, and about me and Andrew and how we work best. And he has been very eager to lead us when I've approached him in prayer, ready to follow.